This class is concerned with benchmarking. Now, benchmarking involves the search for the best practices relating to management or a process. So benchmarking, quite simply, is looking for best practices. What is the best way to make the product? What is the best way to perform a particular function? What's the best way to change a process? So it's looking for best practice. It may do this by looking at competitors. It may look at competitors in international markets, in the domestic market. It may look for best practice within the organization itself. What do other departments do? How do they do it? What are the advantages and disadvantages of doing it the way they do? So benchmarking is a search for best practices so as to improve the performance of the business, adopt the best practices, make changes, and improve the efficiency of the business as a consequence. The benchmarking process involves information gathering, looking at competitors' processes, attending conferences, looking at what the academics are doing at universities and colleges, looking at consultancy reports, or involving consultancies, and possibly other techniques, perhaps trying to glean information or get information from trade associations, for example, perhaps a local chamber of commerce or institute of directors, and looking at what they are publishing and look at what is coming out on a wide front and trying to see what's the best way of working, what's the best way of performing the tasks that the business does, and what's the best way of improving the efficiency by picking up this sort of information. Now, of course, a lot of the information will be confidential and it won't be easy to get it. And also, if it was collected, then you have to make sure that the information collected was suitable for the business. If best practices were picked up from an industry making car components, it may not be suitable for a company producing ceramic glassware or ceramic ware or producing ornaments or whatever. So there has to be comparability in the data. The data collected, it has to be conformable. It has to be capable of being put into a form that's useful for the business. So there are issues in benchmarking, but as a technique, or as a process perhaps, rather than a technique, it is desirable. It's desirable to know where the business is at any one moment and to try and pick up on what is best practice elsewhere. Now, the benchmarking process, well, this is a continuous process to ensure that the organization is up to date. So it's not a one-off. This is ongoing. Benchmarking should be a continuous process, a continuous search for the best way of working, the best way of producing the product, the best way of organizing the business. It's a continuous search, looking at competitors, looking at government reports, looking at academic reports, looking at the whole raft of information that's available and trying to work out from all of that what is the best way of moving forward. Now, the process of benchmarking, well, it's probably best done by setting up a benchmarking team within the business, because it is a big task. There's a lot of information perhaps available, and it will take a team to find the information and start to read it and check it and start to make sense of it and start to applying it to the business. So it's not an easy task and it's not a simple task. So a team is probably the best route. And determine and establish the information channels that will be used for benchmarking the data. So what information channels are there? Where can the team find the information? And how appropriate is the information to the business? As I said, if the two sets of data are from totally different businesses, one in the car works and the other in electrical engineering or in construction, the data may not be suitable. There may be some still insights. It may be possible to get insights into certain activities, which is desirable, but there's a lot of work to be done to get meaningful comparisons. So it depends. It's necessary to carefully analyze the data to make sure that the data is useful, as I said, and compare the results of the data analysis with the current performance and determine any gaps. It may be the case that after benchmarking and finding companies producing similar products elsewhere and finding information on those companies, if that's possible, it may turn out that the business at the moment, the current business, is the most efficient. It'd be a pleasant surprise, but it could be the case. Or it could be the case that one of the competitors is found to be most efficient, in which case, why are they most efficient? What is it they're doing that makes them so efficient? That's the process of benchmarking, checking out what they're doing and comparing it to the current business, looking for gaps, and then implementing action to fix any of the gaps. Now, that's a very, very brief overview of the process of benchmarking. It's a very important management tool. It's necessary in a competitive situation to know what the competitors are doing, the product, the innovations they're making, the production innovations, the machinery they're investing in, the design of their plant, looking at all of the factors associated with the business and trying to pick out the best practices and try to improve on those best practices if possible, but at least, if it's not possible, at least implementing the best practice so that the current business has an opportunity at least of competing effectively with them. So that's benchmarking, and that's all we're going to do in this session. Short class, but a very important topic, and it's covered in other videos as well. So let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.